Welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show, and got a very special guest today. We've had a number of coaches and players on, and now pleased to be joined in by the head coach for the Ohio State Buckeyes. In the middle of his summer break here, getting ready to get ramped up, or I guess the end of the summer break, Ryan. You guys are getting started here. I think next week the coaches are all back. And how's the summer, I guess, gone here over the last, since we talked to you, I guess, back in, what was that, June, when you got out of camps?
Yeah, it's been going good. The guys have been working really hard this summer, and I think the biggest challenge has been the leadership and figuring out who are the guys that are going to step up. And when you look at last year's team, there's guys who are returning, like Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles, guys who have been in some leadership roles in the past, but a lot of guys who now have to step into more prominent roles in terms of leadership. And so that's been important. I feel like, it's been a good couple months leading up to it. As when Mick gets to work with these guys, I mean, that's really where the team is bonded and forged together. So we know that August is going to be a huge month, and it's right around the corner.
Coordinator for a long time now. You've been a head coach. My goodness, here will be 8 seasons coming up, and it flies by. And developing these teams, you talk about developing the leaders. You've got a lot of guys who've been around a long time, but maybe necessarily haven't been in that leadership forefront role. Have you leaned into more of that development process, and kind of what do you try to do to facilitate that?
Well, I think when you have somebody like Mick who's been around for so long, you use his experience as an edge. He's been around this for so long, and so you let him do his job, but you try to give feedback along the way on what you see. But really for him and his staff, I mean, they're the best in the business at what they do. And so, every year you learn more and more about your team. And I think coming off of last season, we'd never stopped. I mean, once the game got over, we were back in school. We already been in school for a couple of weeks. Spring ball was here, took a little break, and on to the summer. So it's been a year-round thing for us. But we also know it's going to be a long run going into this year again. So we've already been through a long season, the new season, the 16 games. And we're making adaptations to make sure that our guys are ready for the long haul. And that is a little different than it's been in the past. But when you throw in the fact that we have such a monster game to start the season, that's different than it was last year.
One of the other things, we had Carson Hinsman and then CJ Hicks on last couple of days. In the past, talked to Cody a lot, Lathan. Everybody's got their own unique story at Ohio State. And you look at guys, like Carson and CJ, and how their roles have kind of changed and morphed. And I asked them, especially Carson, why you come to Ohio State initially, being a kid from Wisconsin, what brings you here? And CJ, an in-state guy, obviously very highly recruited. But then the other thing, in an era now, Ryan, where it's so easy to leave, that if things aren't maybe going your way, which highly recruited guys, the roadmap is come in, play some as a freshman, start a couple years, and then look at the NFL. Like, why do you stay when maybe it isn't going quite as smooth as you maybe envisioned it when you were 17 or 18 years old? They always pointed to the brotherhood of the guys that are here, and that's what keeps them here. What creates that, and how do you kind of try to curate that the best way you can?
Yeah, I think it's a major edge. We do it in recruiting. We start right from the jump in recruiting. And one of the things we do on our official visits is we bring them into the stadium. We take them through the skull session. We explain to them what that is. We bring them into the stadium. We talk about all the great traditions. We talk about the past. We talk about the present, and then we talk about the future. In the past, we talk about all the great players that have played before, and the great coaches that have come before, and the great teams that have come before. And they've set the standard. It started all the way back when Chick Harley, really forced, Ohio State to build the Ohio Stadium because they couldn't fit everybody in the old stadium. And then everything that came before, and the fact that Jesse Owens ran in Ohio Stadium, and all the great teams that have been before, and it's hallowed ground being in Ohio Stadium, and the Buckeye Grove to, the bands to, when you walk in any airport in America and you see that block O, when you hear OH, you scream I-O. Well, it's the same thing when right before kickoff, when the student section says O, and then it's H, and then it's I, and then it's O. Like, that you're in for a game when you play the Buckeyes. And all these traditions that have built up over time, and the victory bell that rings 5 miles around, because back then not everybody got a chance to watch the game, so you find out if the Buckeyes won if you heard the victory bell. Like, all these things have led to the point to where we are with our program right now. And in recruiting, we sell a big part of that because a team of the past has a future. So we talk about the past, then we talk about the present, like you said, the brotherhood. And the brotherhood right now in our culture is as strong as it's ever been. It's because of guys like you and Schlegs who have built this up. But like making sure that guys understand that they're here for a reason. And like when you look at last year's team and the guys that decided to come back, and like you're saying, the guys right now on our team were built into the brotherhood. It's that culture to make sure you understand you're not just coming for a paycheck. You're not just coming as a pass through. You're coming here to leave a legacy behind. And it means a lot. It's bigger than any one person. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than you guys. It's bigger than anybody on our team. It's Buckeye, tradition. So there's that. And then, so there's the past, there's the present, and then there's the future. Like who's going to be next? And that's why recruiting is so important nowadays, to make sure we're bringing in the right people who understand the tradition of Ohio State, because not everybody's from Ohio. Our foundation is Ohio and it will always be Ohio, but there's so many great players across the country. We have to bring those folks in and teach them what it means and build new Buckeyes. We think about the guys that were on our last year's team. You know, we had guys like Ty Hamilton and Jack and all the guys from Ohio, but we also had guys from all parts of different parts of the country who are now Buckeyes. And that Buckeye group is just continuing to grow year in and year out. Not only as people leave the state to go on, do different things nationally, but the more people that are coming to the city of Columbus. It's one of the biggest growing cities in the country, and they're becoming Buckeyes. So the fan base is only getting bigger, but it's our job to make sure that our recruits understand that.
All right. Sorry I was running late. And one, I got to see RJ this morning. He looked fantastic. Two, I want everybody out there to know, like, Ryan is a phenomenal Coach Day is a phenomenal husband and father, and you can tell by the way you interact with their children. I want people to know that. Now, the next question is this. You came in, you're a coordinator, you're a head coach. We've talked about working in the business, working on the business, and then you get probably the greatest picture of trust that you could ever have, and have Chip Kelly come in like, this is exactly what I want. And then now he's gone. Now Hardline is it again. What have been a couple, maybe one, maybe two, biggest growth that you have had as a head football coach over this last 6 years, moving forward with NIL, coaches, staff, continuity? What are those? What are those for you?
Well, I don't know if anybody saw the recent interview with Scotty Scheffler before the British Open.
100%.
And I watched it like 2 or 3 times. And the thing to me is like over these past 8 years and now as a head coach, like, once the confetti hits the ground and we win a national championship, like it is on to the next thing. So like, where do you find your purpose? And to me and to our staff, it has to be that you're pouring into young people. It's just like you're doing, Schlegs, every day at the Armory. Like you're making young people and people in the city of Columbus and the state of Ohio better every day because you're pouring into them in that place. I've been in your place. It's unbelievable. I mean, people are getting better. They're growing. So like at the end of the day, when you put your head on your pillow, you're helping people. Well, it's the same thing here. Like we're helping young people reach their dreams and goals. So like when we're standing on the stage, it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with everybody else because it took everybody. It took you guys. It took former players. It took everybody who was flying across the country. It was people who were at home who were sending like good vibes through the TV. It was everybody that helped in recruiting. It was everybody involved because it comes down to helping these young people reach their dreams and goals. And that's why you get into coaching. Winning championships is just the standard. Like we have to do that. Otherwise, I got to find new coaches and new players. That's how it goes around here. And it's because of people like you guys who have set that standard and coaches that have set that standard along the way. So we just got to live up to it. But what is the purpose at the end of the day? The purpose is to help these people reach their dreams and goals with people who also believe the same thing. Like you said, Chip Kelly, Brian Hartline, Larry Johnson, Tim Walton. Like you start going through the list of guys that we have here, they have to believe that when they're here. If they're here just to win, it's probably not the right place for them. It's not a pass-through. It's here to leave something behind when you're done.
Devin Jordan had an event last night, Bob, and it was great to connect with former players. I mean, guys I coached with Urban, guys that are there now, Tegra Shabola, and I just said, hey man, I loved coaching you and where he's gone and the evolution that he's had, similar to Carson. You guys are reading Chop Wood, Carry Water. What are some of the biggest takeaways? Yep, exactly. From that book, and RJ's read it, I've read it, I got my kids reading it, Bobby's got his kids reading it. What is one of the biggest nuggets that you've taken away from that book that has really permeated through the team as you go into this 2025 season? New identity, new team, hungry. What is that?
Well, I think I thought long and hard about, this offseason and what we need to focus on. And when you come off of a championship, I think so much of, everybody's, comes off of that win. And we had our incoming freshmen and some of the transfers, come in January 6th. So they were able to see the semifinals and the national championship game. And everybody focuses on that final result and what it looked like and all those things. We needed to get back to the beginning of the process and focusing on the process and not necessarily, focusing on the result. And I think last year we did a good job of that because, we came up short in 2 games. We knew our process was right. We just had to tweak some things along the way. We knew the foundation was right. And so to me, I love that book because they're quick reads, but every single chapter in that book has a great message about focusing on what really does matter. And in today's society, it isn't always easy to do that because of all the different distractions. I would say my favorite chapter, though, is Every Inch Matters, because I believe that in all my heart. Like every decision that we make on a day-to-day basis matters. They say, like, if you eat McDonald's today, is it really going to make a difference? Are you going to die tomorrow? No. But if you eat it every day for the next 10 years, yeah, you're going to get sick and get overweight and probably be in poor health. Every decision that we make, who we hang with, what we listen to, the decisions we make on what we put in our body, what time we go to bed at night, like all of these things add up over time. And I think for our guys, it's important for them to understand that every decision they make matters.
So last year you prepared, to play 16, 17 games, and you actually play, the full slate and make it all the way to the final win. What have you done to kind of tweak that? I mean, did you feel like the process was pretty good? Obviously it worked, but you're always kind of looking back and trying to figure out, could we have been better here, better there, find the edge? I mean, you and Notre Dame were the 2 teams that went the entire distance. Now that's going to be the regular expectation in preparing for a season. How has that kind of changed your preparation, having gone through it one time already?
Yeah, I think the difference here is, this first game right out of the gate is going to be different with a young team. We'll have a first-time quarterback in there. So we're going to have to come out of that game, win or lose, with a plan on, okay, here's what we did really well in August, and here's what we need to get fixed, and then grow from there and build from there. Certainly right out of the gate, we're going to be able to figure out. Sometimes it takes a while until you get into those matchup games to figure out where you are. This will give us some instant, feedback on where we are. And so what we have to do is grow and get stronger and build as the season goes on, regardless, because that's what's going to matter, is what team is playing the best at the end of the season. And I think that's exciting about this team, is because we are young, and but we also have a bunch coming back. Like, I'm really looking forward to playing in this first game, but I also am excited about the journey that we're going to go on, because if you get hot and you start to figure some things out as the season goes on, you get into the playoffs, as you guys saw, like, you can be dangerous. And so, we have to take that approach, that every game is very, very important, and compartmentalize the fact that, okay, this game, is a 1-game season, but also taking a step back and recognizing that, like, we've got to build as the season goes on. And that a big part of that is coaching, making sure that we understand after every game, what do we need to get addressed? Is it the personnel? Do we need to make changes? Do we have the right guys in the right seats? 2, is the scheme right? Like, are we doing the best to put our guys in the best position to be successful? And then the third thing is, are we coaching it well enough? And along the way, we have to be very, very critical of that, and we've got to grow. And that's a little bit of that NFL mindset of, like, building and growing as the season goes on. So, that'll be important. And then, but to go back to your question, certainly depth, as we know, is going to be very important. So we've got to continue to work through the bottom half of our roster, because at some point we're going to need them to play.
Hey, this is a two-part side nugget, Coach.
Okay.
As the juice bringer, as the one that's running the show, I think sometimes, and I like to correlate what you do, and obviously business, you're the CEO of Ohio State football. How vital is it to have the mix and your other coaches that help bring the juice to you, and the Mark Pantonis of the world? How important is it to have those type of men in the building, and how you select them? And also, how do you balance everything that you do pouring into the young people that you're responsible for at Ohio State, while also being able to pour into Nita and your children?
Yeah, I think the first part
that's real, man. That's real.
was no question. Well, let me go back. I'll say the second part, like, how do you do that part of it? I learned, maybe you guys have heard me say this, but now I believe in it all my heart. And Clint Bruce is the one that kind of brought it to me in the Navy SEALs, is that balance is not an equal distribution of time and energy. It's investing in your faith, your family, and your friends, because they're going to be there when hard times come. So your faith better be right, your family better be right, and your friends better be right, because they're the ones you're going to lean on. You're not going to have time to go play, 20 rounds of golf or go bowling or go out to, you're just not doing that. I mean, when you're coaching, you're coaching. When you're home, you're home. Now, it doesn't always work that way. You got to pick up the phone when recruits are there, but like you got to do it. And that's a sacrifice you make as a coach. So I think that, to me, is how you do that the best you can. The second part of that is making sure that they're in the building. I mean, yesterday I had my entire family in the building for 4 hours in July. The girls were playing hoop over here. RJ was getting recovery, and doing different things. And like Nina stopped by. Like, to me, it's important. That's a college experience, is to have family come and be a part of it, be around the kids, be around the players, be around upstairs. My girls were up in the dining hall, hanging out with some of the cooks. And I mean, that's to me is part of this process that you got to make sure they get themselves involved with. But in terms of the supporting cast, to me, that's everything. You got no chance if you don't have a great supporting cast, people putting the right people in the right seats and allowing them to do their job and giving them ownership. If they don't feel like they're getting enough direction from me, then I have to step up. But to me, I want people that don't need the direction. Like, I want people that go, who are just lions, who just feed the lions, man. Like, they just find ways to bring value every single day. They don't know what the problem is, but they're going to go in that day and figure it out. And, I think that's important, to have those type of people around me, because that's kind of the way that I lead. Certainly going to give direction, going to give vision, but man, we need go-getters. We need guys who problem solve on a daily basis and want to be great and have ownership.
So, you got Big Ten Media Days coming up next week. Figure we'd give you an obligatory quarterback question to get you warmed up for that, Coach. Just
sure,
hey, every rep's a game rep. So
that's right.
You're just balancing this over your tenure here. You've had a number of times going in with a new starter, guys going back and forth. You've balanced it kind of different ways. It feels like this year, with Lincoln being there a couple of years, Julian just coming in, that there really isn't a guy with significantly more experience on the field, maybe a little more in the program. Kind of different players, but not radically. Just how to balance that through training camp with, like you said earlier, there is no warm-up games this year. Like, you're jumping right into the fire at noon against Texas. So trying to balance that competition to make sure you get the right guy, but also get the right guy soon enough to allow, to build around them and get confidence with the team.
Yeah. I would say that there's times where I've gone into this part of the season where I feel like I know or have a feeling on where it's going. I don't right now. I like both of our guys. I think Tavian's still, again, a third right now, and he's got to grow, and I think he's got a really bright future ahead of him. But he needs, this preseason. He needs, the first half of the season to grow. But Julian and Lincoln both have done some really good things here in the offseason. They're getting stronger. Talking to Mick, there's been really good leadership. The ball's coming out of their hand good right now. But we got to go play football. And that's to me, like, obviously the wild card in all of this. When it's 4th and 2, are we going to get, 3 yards? Getting guys into, to play well once we get in the red zone, like making the throws that we need to make in the red area, making decisions on when to throw the ball away, taking care of the football, maybe taking a sack when, we're not going to force the ball into coverage so that, we might have to punt, as hard as that is, play great defense, get the ball back and go score. Like, that to me is how you win games, is making great decisions. 3rd down, 2-minute. And so you just don't know until you get on the field and play. I thought there was some really good growth this spring, but we'll see. We'll see where this thing goes. And like we said, we'll get some really good feedback after the first one.
and then Bob gets to lead me with this one, which is great because I'm excited. So you had a D coordinator, national champion D coordinator leaves, goes to a rival, maybe a rival, just another Big Ten opponent. And then you bring in Matt Patricia. A little bit about what went into hiring Matt EP. And again, it's so great for me and Bob because we go out there and we hear a defense. We already know what it is. But how excited are you for you to see how he is able to utilize this new young talent that we have on defense and what that's going to be in the 2025 season?
They're fired up.
Yeah.
When we hired him, I was fired up, but I'm more fired up now because I've seen him talk to the guys, talk to recruits, build relationships, and then they're just taking ownership of this defense. I mean, when they go out there, there's just a certain level of confidence when they break that huddle, when they're communicating. I mean, they're moving fast. Now we got to get on the field and we got to do it. But I'm really excited about it. And Matt has brought a lot of great experience to the table. You know, not just the fact that he's a defensive coordinator, he was an offensive coordinator, he was a GM. So now in the new age of what we're doing with the salary cap, he brings in that experience. He's been a head coach, he's been a defensive coordinator at the highest level. He's played long seasons, he's been around great players. And I think one of the best things that he's done over his career is put guys in position to be successful. And he certainly did that at the Patriots. So we have some really good weapons over there. And I'm really fired up to see, you know, not only how it looks in the first game, but how it grows as the season goes on. And he's been a great asset so far to our program. So excited about that. And I think everybody on the defensive side would tell you that, you know, when you get around our defensive coaches, because that's the other thing. He had to walk into a situation where he was a new guy in the room. And that's not easy to do, but he's done it well. And I think all those guys are bought in, and James, Larry, Tim, Matt. I mean, and I think Tim and him are working together really well too, of things that we've done in the past, which, you know, we're going to keep a lot of what we've done in the past, but then there'll be tweaks along the way. They're going to be great.
It's been pretty awesome to watch those guys work. And, you know, Matty P, I think people saw him in Detroit and like at the podium, and, you know, being a head coach can be rough at times, but I mean, he is the most collaborative guy I've ever been around, and watching him recruit and communicate with players has been truly tremendous. Coach, I'm going to get you out here on this. I did ask Julian, saying that you talk about the culture, you know, a kid from Carlsbad. I asked him before he left where he was going for their break. So he was going back home to surf. Said there was a famous Ohio State quarterback who used to do some surfing named Johnny Utah. You ever heard of him? And he was able to pull out Point Break and Keanu Reeves. So I said, all right,
okay,
man, you know enough about the tradition. You've got enough of it here. Good for you. We appreciate it, Coach. I know you're really busy. You got a lot going on. Give our best to Nina and the kids, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, fellas. Go Bucks.